Okay, good morning, everyone. Shavua Tov. I'll just strengthen the loudspeaker. Okay. We will we'll begin with Mesilat Yesharim, Path of the Just. We're in the midst of, we're towards the end of the introduction. Last week we learned the Ramchal taught us the pasuk of Be'atah Yisema Hashem Hashem Mimach. What does Hashem ask of us? Ki im li'ir'ai et Hashem Elokecha, lecha bechol derachav, u'le'ava oto, ve'la'avod et Hashem Elokecha bechol levacha bechol nafshecha, lishmor et mitzvot Hashem be'et chukotav. He said there are five. This pasuk consists of five categories of avodas Hashem, and one has to study them, be aware what they include. We said that Yirat Shamayim is to be in awe every moment of our life that we're in front of Hashem. Hashem is always everywhere, sees everything, controls everything. We must be aware of that. And then everything we do is as if we're talking in front of a king. If we realize Shiviti Hashem and Negdi Tamid, Yud Kei Vav Kei is in front of us every single moment. So we speak softly, we don't cheat, we don't lie, we don't embarrass people. We act, and of course we do all the mitzvot because Hashem is right there in front of us every moment. He's seeing everything. It's a very high expectation, I would say, to live that way. That, by the way, I think we didn't mention this last week. This also reminds me of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov used to say that whenever you speak to someone, try to imagine Hashem in the picture as if you're speaking with Hashem. You have a person in front of you, and you're talking to that person, but really, everything you say, the person himself is Tselem Elokim, right? He's created in the image of Hashem. But also, it's as if Hashem is right behind that person. He's right there, he's listening. So, as if you're speaking with Hashem every single word you say. So, the Gdolim used to use this idea when they needed something urgent and desperate from the Goyish emperors, leaders, heads of states. So they used to actually imagine when speaking to them, pleading for something that the Jews need, as if they're talking with Hashem. This person is nothing really. It's not him. It's Hashem they're talking to. So it's like make-believe saying things to him, but really they're in their mind, they were concentrating on
sincere.
What's that?
That way it comes out more sincere and more.
Not only that, it shoves them aside. It doesn't. You're not the issue. We're not asking for you anything. We're asking of Hashem. Like you're a puppet. It's almost like saying that. Although they never realized that. Of course, if they would realize that, then they chop their head off. But it had that. Atmosphere that they gave to their words, and it worked much better. It's like praying to Hashem at the very moment that you're asking of this Goyish emperor to do something for the Jews. It's a very powerful tactic to use, and it's real. It's something real. Okay, anyhow, so that's Ira. Then we said Halicha Bidrachav, to mimic Hashem, go in his path. That means Yashruta Midot V'tikunam, to be straight, honest with all your midot, your attributes, your personality should be as positive as possible. By the way, someone just asked me a question yesterday which has to do with midot. you can't blame the person, but I said that I don't think they reacted the right way, having to do with halicha bidrachav, with walking in the path of Hashem. A person yesterday told me that his wife's parents live in a building. I don't know if it's Ranana, I don't know where exactly, it doesn't matter. Live in a building where they have a pool. The building itself has a pool for the tenants to use. And she's obviously married to this man who told me about this situation happened. So his wife, daughter of her parents who live in that building, she has access to the pool as well. She can use the pool. So she went down to the pool dressed in a very modest bathing suit. These very modest bathing suits that look like it's a full dress, sort of speaking, but it's made of material that's like a bathing suit, but it's like a full dress. And she went to swim. In the swimming pool, there were two elderly ladies. This is a young woman. He's in his mid-20s, so she's early 20s. And in the pool, there were two elderly women swimming. And when she came in and dressed that way in such a bathing suit, they started making fun of her. What's this thing? What are you wearing? It's crazy. Like, this is not a bathing suit. You're funny. Mamash, they made fun of her. And then they started mamash embarrassing her. Like another woman came down to the pool. So they said, look at her. Like, mamash making fun of her totally. It's crazy. She's behaving modestly and nicely, and they're making fun of her. So, and then they started saying, this isn't hygienic. You're wearing a dress, and that's not how you go into the pool. And I completely lost it. So, in the end, after they made so much fun of her, in the beginning, she tried ignoring, she tried making fun of it. Didn't work out. It didn't work. They were making fun. And then one of them even went to the, supposedly, I don't know, it's a very sophisticated building. There was a matzil, a lifeguard sitting there also. So one of them went to speak to the lifeguard and pointed to her. Mamash made a whole big deal out of it. So she just lost it and she got so angry and she started yelling at them. What do you want from me? I'm wearing a modest bathing suit. This isn't nothing wrong with me, and you're making fun of me. She yelled at them. So, and they got into a whole heated discussion and all that. So she went up to her parents' apartment, and her husband was there, and she told them all that happened. So he asked me, this is already Shabbos. This is, I guess, the day after. He asked me, did she react properly, or what should have been the proper way to react? I said that I can't put myself into her shoes. I'm sure it was a very difficult situation. I'm sure she tried her best to keep it in, but in the end, she let go and got angry. But I said, we see in Chazal that a very high level, and again, I'm not trying to criticize her. She was in a spot that I have no idea how I would reacted. But Chazal tell us, "Hane'elavim ve'inam olvim, shomim cherpatam ve'inam meshivim, aleim nemak." People who hear people make fun of them and embarrass them, and they don't reply. They keep quiet, keep silent, don't reply. They're like the highest standards, highest level. So we see Chazal teaching us that you should keep cool as much as possible. Right. He lost his whole leadership because of it. Right. According to the Rambam, that was his mistake. He got angry. Right. And there are many Mamari Chazal about, it says, Tole Eretz al Belima, Pasuk in Tehillim, I believe, Tole Eretz al Belima. Says Chazal, Tole Eretz, this whole world is dependent al mi shebolem piv bishat meriva, Belima. That he doesn't react when someone's fighting with him and someone's making fun of him. He said, either not to react, or if you have to say something say it softly, gently, in a way that you're just explaining, not getting angry. Explain to them, saying, you can tell them, this is the way I prefer coming down to the pool and bathing. I know there are men who pass by. There are definitely men who pass by the lobby of the building and see the women swimming. So I prefer dressing this way. You may not like it, but that's my way. And good luck. Have a good day. Just answer that very softly and nicely. Sometimes that gets them even crazier, or even more mad, because why aren't you getting mad? Why aren't you hurt by our words? But my wife then told me, I told this to my wife, she said, it has to be something from inside them. They felt bad with themselves about something.
Large numbers of people like that. In France, some of the towns, or maybe even the whole country, is outlawed that they call it burkinis. Like, it's really the Muslim women also go bathing in these
long dresses.
Right, but at the beach, there was something I saw recently at the beach that wearing burkinis, they call it. Like burqa. It's a burqa, but it's for swimming. I guess it's probably the same similar material.
Wow.
And it's against the law.
You serious?
No. Okay, it could be that true, but did they outlaw just in general the whole country?
In the streets, yes. And then,
and then they took it
then
to
there
the
was
water.
something right at the beach.
Wow. Why? What's their reason to against the law?
Respect the French laws. I think France prides itself on being a secular country. So this is like
they're afraid the Muslims say
a bunch of radicals. That's what they believe.
Yeah. Okay.
Who's all the terrorist attacks? Who's doing everything? They're the Muslims.
Yeah, but that doesn't depend on what they wear. They're terrorists no matter what.
The whole society's in. They want them.
It could be they argued.
Yeah.
The real reason is that France doesn't
encourage
that they don't
the
need
Muslims
to have that going on. We don't need that. But they might have argued that it's secure. Like if you're so covered, we sort of lose track. I'm making up security purposes.
If you're holding a bomb inside, no one can see it.
They won't say that. Exactly.
Could be of that too. Okay. That's how we always find that the most liberal approach is anti-liberal, right? Least accepting of other people who aren't.
Really, Rabbi.
What's that?
I think Judaism teaches me I have to be tolerant of people.
You have to be tolerant of? Yeah.
Someone is Meshuggah Lagamre. The woman that dressed like that in Beit Shemesh years ago. It's out of the papers now. Meshuggah Lagamre. Oh, I had to be tolerant for Meshuggahs? They're Meshuggah.
Yeah, but why is that? How does that affect? Why is that? How does that do anything bad? They're working at that.
It's usually, it's Mesamel, sick people. When the Beit Shemesh situation, those cases, there was incest happening in the families. And it was terrible, disgusting, little thing.
Okay, so to go against that. You have to go against that, but not against the dress. Okay.
It represents a sick pervertedness when you want to be your Termidai. None of the Das Torah, no one dresses like that. No one throughout our leaders.
I hear that, but
the same way when you get Tachachah for going to the extreme left, why can't you get Tachachah for going to the extreme right? There's no reason why not.
Saying that it's really for their good. Ultimately, it's really good. It's not for.
Yeah, but who are we to judge? Since
we have Das Torah.
Liberals,
this is not our way.
No, we're talking about the law. We're not talking about rabbis. We're talking about the law. The law sort of represents the fact that chayev eten lichyot. Let me live the way as long as I'm not doing anything bad to you, as long as I'm not harming you.
There's no terrorism, and the things are nice and quiet. You can say that. But when things are a little bit different, you can't always live like that.
Okay, so I'm saying that's if you find bad things, but if you can't, I haven't found this specific woman, I haven't found anything bad against her.
Rob, she represents. We don't take the same approach when we want to apply Jewish religious things in Israel to other people. I want to be clear. It doesn't seem to me. We don't say there was secular Jews.
No, not talking about from my point of view. Talking about from the law point of view, from the state. The state point of view tells everyone that's how democracy works. That if a person doesn't harm you in any way, they want to go around wearing certain clothes, doesn't harm you, so let them go that way.
The same way as a naked woman I would be very upset. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a lady walking around without a shirt on. I don't want to see this.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
I see no difference.
No, that's not true.
They both insult my senses. I'm angry by both of them.
I think that's not true. That's not true.
Yeah, definitely. I see these crazies.
He has a perspective that's not people think that.
Not people, many people.
Yeah.
Huh?
Like the same way a bikini is a problem. That's
exactly.
a problem. Because it's not just the clothing. The same way you don't expect the person to walk into middle of Tel Aviv not dressed.
Right.
You don't expect it's easy. Exactly. It represents more.
Okay, but I don't see the same type of offensive way that
it's not finishing extreme right.
Someone by their dress is making a statement of their beliefs. So, okay, that's their beliefs. If they're not harming you, I mean.
Right. I see it totally different. Okay, whatever. We'll get into the. We have to go into the ideology of the Western world, how they cope with that. Okay. Anyhow. No, so I'm saying in such cases where they're making fun of a person, if you're able to keep it in and not react with anger and pleasantly explain to other people the way you believe, that's better, for surely better. But I can't blame her if she was really being mocked and making fun of her.
I'm just curious. Take it a question, example.
Yeah.
A nice religious family, be Dati Lumi, not Dati Haredi, but they're a nice, really pleasant family on a picnic with a dozen kids, Kanai Hara, and then somebody starts making fun of them for all the kids they have.
Right.
Let's say the Shem Shemayim. Let's say, in other words, the family is. In other words, should you defend Kiddush Hashem too? You know what I mean? Like, in other words, or should you, take it? No, you say what you want to say. You understand? What if you're defending Shem Shamayim?
You as a stranger, or you as one of the family members?
What is that? The father of the family.
The father of the family.
Somebody's saying to you,
so
you guys, this Purim Vu and this mitzvahs of Hashem, you're crazy. You're ruining me. Katura, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, if they have any arguments against that.
No, in other words, I'm asking.
If you're able to answer pleasantly, softly, and explain, better to do it that way. If you're unable to, and you lose your temper if you start responding, so just ignore. Right, just ignore them. Make them more crazy. Like, why are you ignoring me? But it's their problem. Okay. Then we had the Hava, which is just to be in love with Hashem and to appreciate all that He did for us. All that He does for us, and to do all that He requests of us as a person who loves someone else, so He does for them what they want, and He even outdoes it, meaning He does even more than expected because He loves that person. He does more and more than what's expected. That's how we should act towards Hashem. Do more and more, over and over what we're expected to do normally. And then Nishmor et Kol HaMitzvot, right? Then we had all five. Shleimut HaLev. Sorry, Shleimut HaLev. That we're purely worshiping Hashem. That our whole heart is in place to worship Hashem and nothing external. We're not looking for external gain by doing mitzvot, by worshiping Hashem. It's all for Hashem's sake, purely. Not for money, not for pride, not for anything. It's L'Shem Shamayim completely, entirely. And the last thing is Shmirat Kol HaMitzvot. Keep all the mitzvot. With all the dikdukim et meim, with all the different halachos and details of the mitzvot, follow them completely. Okay. Now we just have two more paragraphs to finish the introduction to Mesilat Yesharim. So we'll continue from here. V'hinei kol eile klalim tzrichim pirush gadol. Now these rules, these are 5 general rules and include a lot of many details and a lot of studying. I found in Chazal שכללו החלקים האלה בסדר וחילוק אחר יותר פרטי. He said, I found a Ma'amar Chazal, a saying of Chazal that included these 5, but more detailed, in a more detailed way. ומסודר לפי ההדרגה המצטרכת בהם. לקרוא אותם על נכון. And they are in order of the way one can acquire and become such an individual with ira and ava and alechem b'drachav and shleimus halev and shmiras hamitzvot. It gives us the order, the proper order to go gradually, step by step. And what is that מאמר? והוא מה שאמרו בברייתא, הובא במקומות שונים בש"ס, ואחד מהם בפרק לפני ידיהם עבודה זרה, כף עמוד ב'. There's a brayta in Masechet עבודה זרה that lists a more detailed route to take, path to take, and climb step by step to reach the highest levels of Avodas Hashem. זה לשונם. This is what they told us. מכאן אמר בפנחס בן יאיר, תורה מביאה ידי זהירות. זהירות מביאה ידי זריזות. זריזות מביאה ידי נקיות. נקיות מביאה ידי פרישות. פרישות מביאה ידי טהרה. טהרה מביאה ידי חסידות. חסידות מביאה ידי ענווה. ענווה מביאה ידי יראת חטא. יראת חטא מביאה ידי קדושה. קדושה מביאה ידי רוח הקודש, רוח הקודש מביאה ידי תחיית המתים. So it's a whole lineup of attributes of ways to worship Hashem, different levels, and one leads to the other. Torah leads to zehirut, meaning being careful of every step we take. Zehirut, mivayad is zrizut. The moment we're careful of every step we take, then we climb up to the next level of swiftness. Be swift, to be quick. Zrizut, mivayad nikiyut. Cleanliness, spiritual cleanliness, comes after being swift in Avodas Hashem. Nekiyut, v'ayidei prishut. From being wholesome in Avodas Hashem, then we become parush. Parush is we separate ourselves from gashmiut, from the materialistical world. Prishut, v'ayidei tahara. From there we get to purity. Come to the point of being pure. Tara, mivayadei chasidut. From Tara, from purity, we become a pious, extra righteous. Tzaddik is a righteous person. Chasidut, saintliness even. Okay, right, to that level. Chasidut v'ayidei anava, then one becomes humble. And anava v'ayidei yirat chet, which is very interesting. After all those, climbing all those levels, you become, only then are you fearing sins. It doesn't mean fear of punishment, to be punished because due to sinning. That's something that that's a much lower level. Here, you're afraid of sinning per se, nothing to do with the results, with the consequences of sinning. In fact, you're afraid to stumble. Right, less pure, less wholesome. You're afraid to stumble because you're not complete. You want to be as complete as possible, so you're afraid to sin. That's a very high level. You feel completion in a sense that any flaw makes you feel bad. Just because you did that, you did the sin, not because of any punishment that may come to you. And then you get to holiness. And Kedusha brings you to Ruach HaKodesh. That's the very lowest level of prophecy. After all these stages and steps that one takes during a whole lifetime, only then do you reach the lowest level of prophecy. Now you have 11 levels that Rambam lists within prophecy to grow and grow and grow. So there's endless, it's an endless path, endless route to take. And Ruach HaKodesh added Tchias HaMeisim. That's already the end of the days, or maybe he means here, maybe the Gemara means here Tchias HaMeisim on a personal level. We know that the Tanaim and Amoraim were able to revive dead people on a personal level, one-on-one. We find different stories like that in Shas. That famous one is Rabbi Zera and Rabbah. They spent Sudat Purim together. They're eating together the Purim Purim feast together. And Rabbah became so drunk. Shachte Rabbi Zera. He slaughtered Rabbi Zera from being so drunk. And the following day, he prayed that he comes back to life. And he came back to life.
There are many former Hiroshima that do not read that in the literal.
Right, it's not literal. I know, it's not literal.
Exactly, it's not.
It's very hard to accept that literally.
It's not, in my very humble opinion, not really accurate.
No, that's true. That's true. Although the following year, Rabbi invited Rabbi Zera again, and he said, no, thank you. Lo b'chol yoma mitrachesh, lo b'chol shana mitrachesh nisa. The miracles don't happen every day. So the fact that I was saved last year was enough.
Something went on there.
Right. So something wasn't so positive about what happened there, whatever it was. But we find other circumstances where, of course, Eliyahu Navi and Elisha Navi, they revived the children that had died after they promised a certain woman to have children, to bear kids, and that kid died. So they resuscitated, revived it. So we find that ability to do such a thing. והנה, על פי הברייתא הזאת, הסכמתי לחבר חיבורי זה. I decided to base this book of mine on that ברייתא. of Pinchas ben Yair, of Torah, Murder, Zirut, Zut, and Kiyut, all those steps. I decided to write a whole book based on these steps. What he's going to do in this book is elaborate over every step. What does Zirut mean? What does Nikiyut mean? Zizut, Nikiyut. What does each one mean? Elaborate over each one. First of all, I want to self-educate myself how to behave properly. He's very modest. He says, I have to teach myself and remind others, as if they know it all. I just remind it to them. I have to learn this material, and they have to just be reminded. The conditions, the ways to worship Hashem in a full manner by all their stages, all their steps, and to go properly step by step. I will elaborate over each and every one of them to explain the terms, the parts of it, the details of it. How to acquire that specific level and how to refrain from losing it. Mafsidab, when the things that take us off the beaten track, remove us from the right path and right way. So how do we refrain from falling in those pits, those ditches, and veering away from the proper path? How to be aware not to fall then. I myself will read this book of mine over and over, and whoever finds nachat with my book, whoever feels that it has influence over him. In order for us to study Irat Hashem, and that we should never forget our obligations before Him. Since we're afraid of the fact that materialism always draws us away from Yirat Shamayim. That's one of the main challenges we have in this world, is that materialism takes us in the wrong direction, or at least not necessarily sinful direction, but at least not striving strongly to fulfill mitzvot and to be passionate about mitzvot and to be excited about mitzvot because we're more excited with other things, materialistical things. Again, reminds me very strongly of Rav Moshe Lichtenstein's speech in Shul 2 weeks ago after the main sanctuary meeting. He also spoke exactly about this, that materialism takes away the excitement of Judaism, the excitement of religion, of being excited over mitzvot, and you do it as a matter of fact type way. Like, as he said, I've always davened. I'm past davening. Now let's go on. Like the davening isn't something essential, basic, important. It's to be past davening. And now let's go to the main factor of my life. So that's where we're challenged very much.
I just want to point out.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound like a koifer. I just want to point out that he lived in Pavada. If I'm pronouncing it correctly, Pavada, part of Italy. It was a very wealthy community.
Who did? The
Ramchal. He lived in a wealthy community. You would never see anybody. I don't think you would ever see anybody in Eastern Europe when there was such poverty, where they didn't know where the one meal is coming from the next, writing the same things. Obviously, what was happening around him played a very, very large part in what he put into the book. And don't get me wrong, for us in the Western society, it applies to us.
Right.
But I'm saying, so it's good. It's talking to me and everybody in this room it's talking to.
Right.
But you would never see this sentence being written in a Polish Jew or an Eastern European Jew in Russia or the Pail that had no food to eat. It just wasn't topic.
Right. Yeah. But they weren't challenged by other things. They weren't challenged.
The Gashmian part, it's not part of the
yeah, it's not part of that, but
the lexicon. It's just not there. He saw what he saw in his shtetl, in his upper middle class shtetl, and he saw that it was a problem. But I'm not saying it's universal. It depends where you are.
Right.
What's happening around you. And obviously he's addressing.
You're saying something very important, that it's a greater challenge for a wealthier person, a person of means, to stick to, not saying per se worshiping Hashem, not saying going off the derech totally, but to be excited and passionate over Judaism, over mitzvot. It's more difficult for a person who has it all than for a person who doesn't. You're right.
For a person also has his
has other struggles, other challenges, but you're right. The greatest struggle, the greatest challenges for, that's how Reb Chaim Volozhin explains in the Pirkei Avos. He wrote a commentary called Ruach Avot, I think. So, no, Ruach Chaim, right? Sorry, Ruach Chaim, right? Ruach Chaim, he wrote a commentary on Pirkei Avos, and there he says exactly the line that David was saying now, that it's more difficult to worship Hashem with means than it is without. We would think the opposite. We would think a person barely makes a living, he's more challenged to worship Hashem. He could say to Hashem, you're not supplying for me. Who cares? Who cares for you? Don't believe in you, Hashem. If you're not helping me, my prayers go for waste. So you're not existing. But he says, no, Dafka, then you're more dependent on Hashem. You're praying from the bottom of your heart to be helped. And sometimes Hashem listens. Sometimes Hashem has reasons why not. But you're more aware and in need of Hashem than a person who has everything. Then he can say, who needs Hashem? I have everything myself. I've done it alone, on my own. So yeah, it's a greater challenge for sure. Hakriya, reading this book and inspecting what it has to tell us will remind us every moment, remind us and awaken us to follow Hashem's commandments, to follow mitzvot properly. Reading this book will always keep you in there and not chas v'chalila to go other ways. Hashem should be with our wit, with our that we should understand his ways and keep us from stumbling. and that Hashem should accept the request of David HaMelech. Oreini Hashem darkecha, a'alech ba'amitecha, yached levavi li'ira shmecha. Amen ken yeh ratzon. Hashem should teach us His ways and help us strive to reach the highest levels of worshiping Him and fearing Him. Okay, so that's the end of the Hakdama, the end of the introduction. Okay, so we can stop at this. Chapter number 1 is still going to be somewhat introductory to the path that the Mesilat Yesharim is built on. It's still not going to be the lowest level of Zihut. He's still going to give us another chapter of a more generalized speech about the necessity to follow the rules and worship Hashem. So it's not about the book, it's already the beginning of the book, but it begins with the necessity to watch our ways. And then the moment you understand why you need to watch your ways, then how to do so. How to do so is chapter 2. That's already as of chapter 2. That's how we begin. That's how we begin the path itself. Okay. So let's start at this. Go to Berachos. Last time we finished at, we did the cleanliness in the room, in the area where you say Berachos, both from the point of view of unclean things like what comes out of our body or animals, stuff that you have to be aware of and not say bracha. We said mainly the concept is anything that yields out bad smell, bad odor, you mustn't say a bracha in front of it as long as you can see it, no matter how far away it is from you. As long as you can see it, if it has a bad smell. If it's to your sides or in back of you, behind you or to your sides, then you need to walk away 4 amos, which is 2 meters, away from the last place where it still smells bad. To detach yourself from the bad smell, 2 more meters away, sideways or from your back. If it's in front, you can't say brachos at all. Even if the odor, bad odor doesn't get to you, doesn't reach where you are, but since that thing in front of you does have bad odor, if you go closer to have bad odor, so meloi nav, you can't see it. Now, we also mentioned that if there's anything covering it, even if it's transparent, if it's sheer, you can see the item itself, but the moment it's covered, that's enough. Torah just says, cover. It doesn't say don't see it. You're allowed to see it as long as it's covered. So there's a window, like the windshield of a car, and you have in front of you a garbage truck. You know, it smells terrible. It's not enough covered. It has to be covered and no smell. So you have to close the windows, and the car inside smells perfectly fine. The fact that you see it beyond the windshield doesn't bother us. You can say brachos, tefillos, Torah, everything. All bechisita, it's covered.
Are you saying that you have to be Daled Amos, 2 amos?
No, Daled Amos is 2 meters.
Okay.
2 meters away.
Daled Amos beyond the end of the smell.
Correct. Beyond the end of the smell, right.
Why is that? I mean, if you're not smelling it, what difference does it make?
Yeah, because it says Vayam Machanecha Kadosh. Machane means it's a camp. Your camp has to be holy, but that means literally here, in this case, it means your whereabouts, your location has to be holy. Less than 2 meters, it's considered in your location. Arba Amot is your area. That's where a person's area is. 2 meters is to all sides, sideways, front, back. It's considered your area. Beyond that, it's beyond your area. Right? That's how Chazal assessed or Torah.
field during this whole Corona time, we kept hearing,
exactly 2 meters away. Exactly. I also thought of it then when they were saying it, that it's exactly according to the halacha. It makes so much sense. Yeah, that's really actually proof that Chazal, or it's probably even halacha Shemi Sinai, because it's a shiur measurement. Shiurim is halacha Shemi Sinai. So they realize that that's the area of a person. Beyond that, it's out of your area. It doesn't affect you, right? There's no effect that way, that far. So if you're in 2 meters, it's as if it's right in your nose. You pass 2 meters, beyond 2 meters, it's out of your location already.
Not everybody has the same sense of smell. I'm just curious. 2 people or more, and one person doesn't have a sense of smell, and other people smell.
So we said that 2 weeks ago. We said we go by a person who smells normally. It doesn't matter for that person himself who doesn't smell. He has to have someone who does smell. Then you have to walk away, right? And that's how it's measured. Because again, it's an unholy circumstance. So it doesn't matter if you're actually a person who can smell or not. This area is not a holy area. Not a place to say brachos. Right.
How do you determine when somebody, for example, in my household, my wife has a very keen sense of smell.
Wow.
We can wake up and she can know this is it. I can smell it.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Does she have, I can't smell? Is that what the conclusion is? Is that there's a situation where someone can smell it? It's not a matter that they're more sensitive. It's a matter if anyone can smell it, then it's smellable. Is that how do you?
No, I would think it's a good question. How do you measure it with all these different levels of smelling capabilities? I would assume, it's a good question. I would assume it goes by average people, by the average person, not
2 people. 2 people.
Yeah, right. Maybe you tested sometimes, not this specific situation, but in your lifetime, in general, you tested with some other people. Do you smell what my wife is smelling now? If they say no, so you know she's extra sensitive.
Mold, you can smell mold a mile away.
Wow. Interesting. Extra sensitive. It's good as a woman. It's good. It's important. You used to smell her cooking, all kinds of things.
I had a problem in Shabbos. I was in Tanya, my daughter's apartment. Her husband's out of town, so he normally sets the lights.
Yeah.
On the timer.
Right.
So after I made Kiddush, I'm thinking, maybe these lights ought to be turning on pretty soon. She goes, Abba, the lights aren't going to turn on. I go, no. She goes, because I don't know how to set the lights.
Wow.
So there's going to be no lights in the kitchen, no lights in the dining room.
Oh, yeah.
Only light.
Could have kept it on, by the way. Little secret.
The only light was from the bathroom.
Wow.
And there was a straight shot to the bathroom. There was a straight view of the bathroom.
View.
And if you open the door a little bit, but if you wanted to have room to eat, you want light to eat.
Yeah, you shut the whole door.
So this question came up.
Right. Can you say a bracha right in front of
the side, so they faced each other.
But
my view was straight into the bathroom. There's no smell.
Right, but
so the question is, should I have moved my chair to the other end of the table so that I was looking into the room and it was all behind?
Yes, I think so. I think they should have done that because the bathroom per se is considered. We said that also last week that even if you just walk into the bathroom and come out, you need to do the Tirei Sadayim because it's considered an unclean place. Even though we had those Persian, explained last week that in the Gemara there are these Persian toilets that wouldn't require Tirei Sadayim if you just entered the place and came out because they're cleaner than ours in a way that the moment you do what you do, there was a stream of water that took it away immediately. Whereas by us, until you flush the toilet, it's still there. That's how the Chazon Ish explains the difference. That's why it's even worse than ones we have nowadays, even though our bathrooms are so clean and detergent and everything. But still, it's not enough to be considered like the Persian ones in those days. And therefore, just by seeing it, it's called Graf Shel Rei, the toilet itself is what accumulates all that stuff, and it's considered something that's unclean to say brachas.
Rav Shrei is sort of a level thing. Some people think that this is the Rav Shrei, and they move it on.
But everyone gets disgusted by a bathroom, no matter what. It's not it's unpleasant for everyone. It's not something personal here. It's not the individual who feels it's disgusting and others don't care. It's not a scene you enjoy seeing. And so better you should have sat with your back to it, right? And then I'm sure it's 2 meters away.
Yeah, we were 2 meters away.
2 meters away for sure. So with your back to it, that would have been better. Yeah. And no odor coming out. That would have been fine. Yeah. Okay. So let's continue now with another situation. This comes up a lot. Can one say brachos or begin a tefillah as they're walking to shul? We said in general, best to say a bracha standing straight because that was one of the chapters before, because of concentration. You have to concentrate over bracha. If you're walking, it's more difficult to concentrate. But we said that if, let's say, you feel that if you don't start davening on the way to shul, you may miss some of davening because you're not using that time to progress in davening. And when you get to shul, you'll be late with the tzibur. So you're feeling you're more concentrated by saying it on the way than waiting to say it in shul and rushing through it because you're late. So in those circumstances, you can say the bracha as you're walking. But the big question is those green garbage bins. All the way through every street in Ra'anana, you see them. Sometimes they're hidden away in these behind doors. But most of the time, most people don't have such a small room, such a small space with the doors covering it. It's visible next to each private home. You have those green garbage bins. Can you say a bracha as you pass by? Or as you're looking ahead and seeing it in front of you? That's a big question. I know Rafil Malka repeatedly says in his radio show that you mustn't say a bracha. Seeing them even in front of you, as far as you can see, you cannot say a bracha that way. And his reasoning is, that's what he says. He explains it the following. If you go very close to them and you sniff, you get that bad odor coming out of them. And since they have this bad odor, it doesn't matter that you're far from it. That's what we said before. That the moment it's a graf shel rei, it's something has something disgusting in it. So, and it sees a bad odor. So that in itself is considered improper. It's not proper to say a bracha in front of such a thing. Even though it's far from your smelling your ability, even David's wife's ability, wouldn't be able to smell it so far away. But since in itself, it does smell bad if you go very close to it. So it becomes something unclean, improper to say a bracha in front of it. That's what he holds. Truth of the matter, it could be where he lives, that's how it is. But I've tried. I've gone next to many, many such bins, and I tried to sniff. Really, if you open the bin, then of course it's terrible smell. No question. If you open it, terrible smell. But if the lid is closed, some of them, by the way, either it's the garbage bags inside are jutting out and the lid can't close it because it's overflowing. Then you're in trouble, because then if you go near it, very close to it, you would smell a terrible odor. Some of them don't even have a lid; it broke off, or the people in that family doesn't care to close it, and they have it all flipped open. Those situations, definitely he's right. You can't say a bracha. Because if you would go close to it, you would smell the odor very badly. But in front of, or next to, or behind a garbage bin that's closed, since people throw their garbage in bags most of the time, bags, and the lid is closed, you can't smell a thing. I tried it many, many times just to go close near it and sniff. You can't smell. There's no bad odor coming out. And the fact that it's all closed in, it's even another point here. It's 10 tfachim high. It's usually at least a meter high, these bins. A meter is up to our waist. It's definitely higher than that. So it's like its own entity. It's like closed into its own entity. And there's no bad odor. So there really should be no problem to say a bracha right next to it or in front of you or behind you. It doesn't matter where. And I once had called in to the radio show. When Rav Malka said this halacha, I called in and I said that I myself witnessed Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach walking home from Shul to his home in Shari Chesed, and people were going after him, asking questions the whole way to his house every morning. Every morning, he had a whole lineup of people asking questions as he was walking home. And he didn't care at all if you passed by such a garbage pail, such a garbage bin. He continued speaking Torah. I witnessed it myself. And it says in Alichos Shlomo, the book that his grandchildren put out, they describe the same thing in the footnote on the bottom, described that he would say, he would speak Torah next to these bins. Now, I do agree that when you have those, here in the Ranana, it's less frequent to see, but you have those big, they're called tzfardea in Hebrew.
30 years ago, they were very hot.
Oh, yeah? Here in Ranana, you mean?
All over in Israel.
In Yerushalayim, they're still full of them. In Yerushalayim, we see a lot of them.
Even now?
Yeah.
Back then, you saw even more, trust me.
Okay, could be.
For big buildings, they would
Right. Here, like take a building even here in Anna. We have, like here, take Olari. You have on the side, it's in a room, it's in a closed room, but there they have these huge garbage pails, and they're stinking no matter what. They're really, they have a bad smell coming out of them. You go into that room, you have to run away. You just throw it back in and run away and run out. So, of course, it's around that area of such a big one that's always overflowing and always spilling over and always stinking, then you can't say any brachos tefillos in front of that one, no question. I'm talking about the private owned ones, which are decent usually, and again, if they're not open, the lid isn't open in any way, there should be no problem to say brachos and tefillos next to it. So interesting that in this book that we're using, Shalmei Bracha, they go through a whole discussion how Reb Shlomo Zalman, what he felt about this situation. So they say here, actually, David Levy just mentioned 30 years ago, he begins by saying, Lifnei ke-30 shana. Right? You saw it, huh? You saw I was going to read this. There was a Talmid Chacham that spoke about saying Divrei Torah, making brachos in the streets. The problem of doing so because of the garbage pails. And when one of the Talmidim of Shlomo Zalman came over to him to tell him about this rabbi who said that it's improper to say brachos and Torah in the streets, he told this Talmid, a student of his, that in the beginning, he felt of Shlomo Zalman that it's not an issue because they're usually people throw their garbage again in bags and they're taken away, they're emptied almost daily. Here in Anna, they're emptied, I think every 2 days, they empty them. So for every 2 days they're emptied, although I've noticed when I did smell in an empty garbage pail, I opened the lid and smelled, it's disgusting because no matter what, things spill over and things dry out there and it's a terrible smell. Unless people are conscientious to wash their bins once a week or something. I see people do that also. Believe me, Ranana, you can see everything. So people wash their bins. But but in general, he felt that since they're emptied so frequently, it should not be a problem. Although in the summertime, it's worse than the winter because of the hot air. Circumstances, it gets stinky and rots much quicker than it does in the winter. So he wasn't sure about that, about summertime. And then he felt that because of the summertime, it's considered a graf shel rei. It's considered the whole garbage pill is considered a disgusting item, and therefore you shouldn't say a bracha in front of it. For a while, he was saying not to say a bracha in front of them or next to them, and especially he said this could happen by Kiddush Levana. Kiddush Levana, we're all saying our brachos outdoors, and if the shul has a garbage pail next to it, or again in front in your eyesight, in front of you, would be probably saying Kiddush Levana. Be careful of what goes on around there. But then it says in this book, Achen Shuv Chazar Bo Rabbeinu. In the end, he went back on his psak. Ve'adar l'svarato harishona. He returned to his original psak that these garbage pails are not considered gav shel rei because of the garbage bags and because of being emptied all the time. And he says also, Achar sheberer be'atzmo ubadak be'arbe pachei hashpa. Shlomo himself checked many such garbage bins and found out that there's no smell coming out of them when they're closed. So therefore, he allowed. In the end, he finalized that it's allowed. You're allowed to say, and that's how I observed myself. That's what he did himself, and therefore it's okay. You don't even need for sure not. You don't need to turn away and not see it in front of you, far in front of you. And you can say brachos and tefillos and divrei Torah in front of it. He said, if possible, to stay away 2 meters. 2 meters away. If possible, better yet to stay 2 meters away. But it's not, even that's not really necessary. Okay. We said driving a car is fine no matter what, even if you see in front of you a stinking garbage pail that's really bad. If you're in the car, windshield, windows closed, you can say any tefillah, any bracha, all divrei Torah, no difference. Okay, now the very last page of this chapter is about, we said we'll talk also about that, discuss improperly dressed women and saying brachos and tefillah in the room when there's such a woman. Which reminds me, by the way, I was walking home from early mincha of Friday this week, from the early Mariv minions. I just have a mincha and then I go home to come back for the normal time. So I was walking home and suddenly this man stops the car next to me. I don't know, he's a stranger to me. I've never seen him. And he looked Haredi dressed. And he asked me if I davened in Olari. I said yes. So he said, I have a problem. I would love to daven in Olari, but I came there once or twice. In the women's section, it's impossible. How can you daven in such a place where it's all visible, you see everything?
There's no problem.
There's no
Where I
spot.
sit?
There's no spot.
Our own back.
What's that?
You sit behind.
If you sit
You're under
straight
the
onto the
balcony.
Aron,
Yeah, all the way back.
the back you are.
You don't see any woman?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay, barely is there a spot, but okay, so you can find a spot that isn't that way, but it bothers him. How can a shul be built that way? So I said to him,
Come to Lincoln Square.
There's shuls.
even worse.
Many.
Wow.
Orthodox.
Wow.
Exponentially times 10.
Wow. Can't imagine. Okay. No, so all I said to him was, I just don't look up. Just daven straight forward, looking straight ahead. Don't look up. he said that, but he said it's very difficult. Why don't they have a better mechitza? And I said that's one of the reasons I'm the rabbi of the shul, so I don't have the responsibility. Yeah. So if you would like, speak to those who are responsible for the shul. But there's a point to it. Rav Moshe Feinstein, or a famous tshuva, but actually two tshuvas that have to do with this issue of women in shul. One is the fact that a mechitza itself is enough that it's up to their shoulders. It doesn't have to completely hide the women totally. 18 tfachim, he said. That's the height of a mechitza. He said if it's built higher, then keep it that way. Don't go down to 18. But if it's if people
18 tfachim is 1 meter. No,
18 tfachim, no, that's 10 tfachim.
4 tfachim is a meter or 6 tfachim? 8 amma.
No.
How many tfachim is an amma?
Every tefach is 8 centimeters. 8 centimeters. So
yeah, like
I thought it was 6 tfachim was an amma.
yeah, an amma, right? That's half a meter.
So 18 tfachim is 1 meter. It's math. I mean, I think I'm getting the math right.
No, meter and a half. 6.
What's 18 times 8?
6 tfachim is an amma, which is half a meter. 1 amma is half a meter. So now times 3 is a meter and a half.
Like 4.5.
A meter and a half is up to your shoulders mostly. Right. Yeah. I'm a meter 77. So a meter 50 is up to my shoulders. Right. That's shoulder height is what was allowed to have a mechitza. But and then another tshuva of his, besides the height of the mechitza.
That must be a separation not visible because somebody's head is above that.
Right.
By definition, he's saying it's a separation, not
exactly. But we'll soon understand in what circumstances he was talking about. But that's true. He says it's a separation, not even if it's visible, because he says the main point of a mechitza is to limnoa kalut rosh. That there shouldn't be laughter together. There shouldn't be a togetherness between men and women. So it causes separation. You know, they're on one side, we're on the other side. Nothing to do with each other. Another tshuva of his was that putting women on a balcony is good enough. The fact that they're on a balcony, that's a separation. Even if they're totally visible, you can't talk to them, you can't laugh with them, no kalut rosh, that's fine. And that he proves from the Gemara in Sukkah, Nun Bet, where they did a whole big tikkun gadol. Yeah, it says. Tikkun gadol, right. They corrected the situation in Beis Hamikdash, that the Azara used to be men and women together. And it caused nonsense atmosphere. So they put the women on a balcony, and then they had a tikkun gadol. That's how they corrected the situation.
Does Chazal say with men able to see women on the balcony? Is there any way Chazal before you talk about that topic?
It's quite obvious if it's just on a balcony, you're able to see them. It doesn't say plus mechitza. Right. So it's just a balcony. So that's how Moshe proves that it's the idea of kalut rosh and not the idea of not being able to see them.
If my memory is correct, I think the Divrei Yoel came up the Satmar Rebbe.
Oh, very much against him?
Came up very strong against him.
Yeah.
First,
oh, wow.
Shiva, and then he wrote the second one in response to the Divrei Yoel's.
Aha.
That's if my memory is correct.
Wow, interesting. Okay, it's not the only thing they were in dispute about,
okay. So
but that's one of the things. Added to the list. Okay. Now, but there's a big but. All that Moshe was talking about is only from the point of view of, like David said now, the separation between men and women. The mere fact that they must be separate during davening, you can't be able to converse easily and laugh together and things like that. But Moshe cannot undo Chazal, who'd speak about in Berachot Kaf and in Ksubos Ayin Bet in many places, speaking about erva. There are areas in the woman's body that have to be covered while you daven, while you say brachos, while you learn Torah. It can't be that Moshe chucked all that aside and said, no, enough is the separation, even though in your eyesight you can see these things. That's impossible. So obviously, he was only talking about the separation issue. But if the women are not dressed properly in a way that you can't say brachos and tefillah in front of the woman dressed that way, then it mustn't be visible either. It has to be covered. Now here, it's different than all that we spoke about in the beginning of this chapter of unclean circumstances, which is enough to have even a transparent cover over it, and it's fine. Here, it says, V'lo yir'eh bechayr v'adavar. It doesn't say just cover, and then you can use a see-through glass sheer cover. Here, you mustn't be able to see erva of a woman, which is those uncovered areas that should be covered. So here it has to be invisible, unseen. You can't be able to see the woman the way she's dressed. Now that means anything beyond the elbow. If she has a sleeve that's beyond the elbow, is already problematic. If she has a skirt that's above knee level, that's also problematic. If she has an open chest to a certain extent, that's also problematic. Hair uncovered, all that we spoke about in the past, those things, one cannot see a bracha that way. Now, if it's side by side, so you could always argue that you're davening straight forward, you're not looking to your side. And then even if the mechitza isn't totally blocking your eyesight from seeing the women, just don't look. It's not that there's tuma in the room because she's dressed down properly. It's that you mustn't see, you mustn't look at her. So if you're just looking straight forward, so, and it's a mechitza that creates a separation, that should be okay. It's not the best of circumstances because some men, unfortunately, do look to the side and see the women. And if they're davening as they're looking to the sides, that's a problem. So you're not preventing the problem, but you can help yourself not enter the problem. Yeah.
And it applies to not even the unmarried women.
True.
For a man.
True.
No, that's where people think, okay, married women will have a kisur guaranteed in shul. An unmarried woman.
No, the kishur, a woman who's not married does not need to cover her hair.
No,
sure
but the issue with brachot. No,
no problem.
That's not a problem.
Not a problem.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
For a non-married woman, even she's a nida, and she most probably is, because she's above 12, 13. Right. She got a period already, and she didn't go to the mikveh because she's not married. Even so, her hair, specifically her hair, can be exposed, and you can say a bracha.
Unlike this sleeves.
Unlike sleeves or legs or chest.
Specific to davening. I wasn't trying to make somebody consider rosh in the street.
No, even by davening. It's not considered erva. It's a good question. How come it's not? The post can explain that since we wish for her to find the shidduch, to find the husband, so we allow that to be exposed, even though it's really the same exact as the married woman's hair. But we allow it for shidduchim purposes. Feet, not a problem. Not a problem. They can be exposed. I said up to her knees. It can be exposed. There are definitely more and more stringent opinions that talk about stockings and the dinar. It's called the thickness of the stockings. There's 20 dinar, 40 dinar, all kinds of thicknesses.
It doesn't let sheer stockings.
Not even sheer.
They all have to have a line going down it, so they know that it's not a stocking.
Wow.
It
looks like a leg. It looks like the leg.
You walk by quickly, you can't really tell.
Right. Yeah. There's all kinds of many different levels of tzniut.
Same with shaking the head.
Right.
I'm saying the Hasidim have their own reps.
Right. Yeah. Some of them only go with black stockings. They don't even wear leg color, sheer color. Right. Rav Shlomo Zalman now says here, Savar Rabbeinu, he held one kula, shebegilui se'ar, only by hair, not by the other parts of a woman's body, and she's married, and having her head uncovered, yesh mekilim be'amira davar shebekdusha be'atzimat enayim. Normally, even closing your eyes like this and saying a bracha while in front of you there's a woman who's exposed in an improper way, doesn't help. Shutting your eyes does not help. Even though you can't see the woman now, it doesn't help because it's not a barrier. It's still yourself in front of her. But in front of exposed hair, closing your eyes, there's a kula. The closing your eyes is enough. Could be enough to say brachos. If it's a different type of exposed areas of her body, except for here, he has to move his head, turn his head to a different direction. It's not enough to close your eyes, it's to turn your head. It's not enough even to just put your head downwards towards the floor and then not see her. It's not enough. It's still in front of you. It has to be you turn your head to the sides or back and not at all be in her, in your eyesight. Okay. Now, what happens when there are improper pictures, posters of improperly dressed women? Is a poster like a woman? Does it have the same effect of a real body? Or is it just a picture, make believe? There's nothing real to it. So truth of the matter is, it's not erva. It's not considered erva. Erva is the actual flesh and body of a woman. Here, it's not considered erva. But there's a different problem here. And that is, hirurei avera. It definitely causes your mind to, you're not even imagining, you're seeing the improperly dressed woman, so your mind is distracted in an impure way. Your mind is impure by seeing this. And the Gemara says, hirurei avera kashima avera. That the hero avera, the imagination in your mind of improper, of impurity, is worse than the actual sin.
That's one of the three sins remorse that everyone is violated.
Every day, correct. Right. Hiru avera, abak lashon hara, and iyun tefila.
Which one?
Iyun tefila. Iyun tefila, right. So hiru avera is very difficult to stay away from, especially today with all the internet and iPhones and craziness that goes on with the impurity that people have in the palm of their hand, unfortunately. Unless it's blocked, like it should be, by all these companies that block the improper sites. But in any case, it's not in erva, but it's definitely a problem to say brachos because you're distracted by impure scenes in front of you. It's very bad.
That gets to be very, very subjective. And usually halacha, the beauty of halacha or the identification of halacha is the objectivity.
Right.
This is a very subjective halacha. It's interesting.
No, therefore it doesn't matter. Meaning, don't pray in front of a poster of a woman who's not dressed. Doesn't matter if it does something to you or doesn't. It's improper.
I'm saying the whole concept of hirurei avera.
Yeah.
If I see, me personally, I'll tell my sins right now in public. I know even on Zoom. I see a woman's elbow a little bit, but it doesn't do anything. Whatever. I'm sorry. It doesn't do it.
No.
If I see a married lady's hair, it doesn't do it for me.
No, erva. No, the two things. Erva and hirurei avera. Those are two different things. Erva
you would think one leads to the other.
Is objective. No, it's an impure situation. Doesn't matter what it does to your mind. It's not because of hirurei avera. Erva is lo yireh b'charavat davar. Doesn't matter what it does to you. The Torah tells you the oraita. You mustn't pray in front of an erva. It doesn't matter what it does to you, what effect it has on your hirurim, on your imagination. We're saying now by a poster, which is not erva, because it's not a woman's body, it's just a picture of it. So then it's no issue of erva. Then we go into hirurei avera. Then we're into this area of what it does to you. So then you can argue that if you see a woman's elbow on a poster, it doesn't do anything to you.
Live.
But live doesn't matter because live is an erva per se. It's defined as an erva. It doesn't matter what it does to your mind.
Because Chazal did not give the kula of hair to the elbow. That's the reason why. Right?
Chazal didn't give a kula. There is no kula of hair.
They didn't use that kula.
For kula of which kula do you mean?
A woman's hair. A woman married.
Oh, for a non-married woman. Yeah. But that's only a non-married woman and only hair, right? Only hair. Not every other part of her body is erva.
I'm asking, not a Sheila kickback.
Yeah.
There are posters where it's a woman's face and hair. Not out like it's like, I don't know.
From neck up. Yeah.
So that's technically, if she's not married, not erva.
Right. No problem. No problem to say
She's
bracha.
not her bure, unless,
right.
God forbid, whatever. Okay.
Right. Yeah, that's no problem. Right. Right. Or you could say even pray in front of, well, in general, by the way, Shmoneh Esrei, we can't pray in front of any portrait, even if it's the biggest tzaddik in the world wearing a strimal and having payas and a long beard. You're not allowed to have any pictures in front of you when you pray. So we're talking about Pesukei de Zimra, Kriyat Shema, only that, because Shmoneh Esrei you can't have in front of a portrait.
Does halacha ever apply to non-Jewish women? Like Nida doesn't, for example, and Tumas, depending upon the situation. What about regular
erva?
Does that apply or doesn't apply? Is it more like Nida?
I would say that it's at least. I would say that it's at least here wherever you're at. That's definitely true. Your imagination doesn't stop. You don't stop thinking because it's a goya. That doesn't make a difference.
My elbow situation, it does.
Right. So for actual erva, which is for a goyish woman, if it doesn't cause you here wherever you're at,
without a head.
Yeah, I would think it's not erva, right? I would think it's not considered erva. Okay. But you have to be careful of seeing improper scenes that make you imagine. Right, yes, right. I would think that there is, but it's a good question. Checking it inside to see if there's an issue of erva by definition for a non-Jewish woman. It's interesting.
If you negate your neighbor, for example, you're in Teal in America, whatever.
Yeah.
You go to 7-Eleven, you buy a soda, whatever, and everyone there is going, and no one has their hair covered. And there's a lot of married women there with families and children, whatever.
Yeah, I would say, right. I would say that it's not a problem of erva because it's right. We always say that the person who can also be on a very high level of holiness also extracts low level of non-holiness. A person who can't reach high levels can't reach the low levels either. That's how it works. That's why a goyish woman doesn't become nida, because she can't be pure so much, so she can't be impure so much.
I figured that, but I would just...
Yeah, but I have to check it to be sure. I'm almost certain. But always be aware of whoever, right? Okay. Two more short passages of this chapter, and we'll stop at that. Levarech mul mar'ah. We said before that you're not allowed to daven in front of a portrait, no matter how a person is dressed and who it is. So that's Shmoneh Esrei. Same goes for a mirror. You cannot say Shmoneh Esrei in front of a mirror because it's like as if davening to yourself. You see yourself in the mirror. So that's definitely you can't say Shmoneh Esrei. That's, by the way, a big problem there is in Olari upstairs. The glass window that's two sides of the Aron Kodesh. It's a long glass pane from top bottom. That,
just to let you know, I know the person that paid money for it to be stained glass, and the show never did it.
Is serious?
Yes.
Nice. I brought it up years ago.
The one was to make that stained glass, it wouldn't be an issue.
Right. That's what needs to be done. Right now it's sheer glass, and then when you're in the nighttime mainly, when outside it's dark and inside it's light, so it acts exactly like a mirror. You can see yourself perfectly. I even use it in the morning. I use that window for my tefillin to check it there in place. So even in the morning, it works like a window. So personally, I just don't stand in the aisle, in the seats that are right in front, but there are definitely quite a few in that whole row of seats facing those windows on both sides that davening improperly.
If someone has a study and he has pictures of Godot in front of his study,
right to the direction he's supposed to daven.
Yes,
so he has to take down the picture before he davens. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that it's a custom to cover all mirrors in a shiva home. One of the reasons is that because it's a shiva home is a place where people daven because they come to make a minyan. So it could happen that a person would stand in front of a mirror, so they cover all the mirrors. That's one of the reasons. There's another reason that's more Kabbalistic, more
even Reform Jews do that.
Mystic.
Okay, so the Yiddishkeit.
Oh yeah,
the Shiva, they do that also.
You serious?
Very interesting.
They took that minhag. Interesting. It's there's no source almost. It's just like
what if portrait or painting that is not realistic? Like it's
it's like a drawing.
You know, like
if you see the face of a person, doesn't matter if it's a living person or it's just a drawing. Someone drew some style imaginary. It's still you mustn't daven in front of it.
Not even a person. You have a picture of a dog.
A dog.
Yeah,
it's even worse.
You have an old dog. Your dog passed away. You have a picture of the dog.
Right, at a funeral. A picture to remind you.
You have a picture of
a
dog that you used to have. You have a picture of the dog on the wall. You can't daven.
Right.
Can you daven in front of the...
No. Right in front of it. You can't face it.
Okay.
Right. If you don't face it, okay. Right.
A picture of the Korsel, of people davening at the Korsel, that's also problematic?
So I would say if it's blurry, you can't see a face really. It's blurry. You see these dmuyot, these figures standing in front of the kotel, that's fine. But if you see a face of a person, that's a problem.
It's a face of any creature?
Yeah, it's even worse if it's an animal. It's much worse. They're like davening to. It's the idea of don't bow down to a human being. It's definitely an animal.
Or landscape with trees.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. That's not an image of someone.
Even if the window is not reflective, a clear window, you see straight out.
Yeah.
Is it inappropriate to daven in front of a window?
That's true for a different reason. That's true because of distraction. Because you'll see movement. You'll see people moving in the street. You'll see cars going. Distraction-wise, that's why you should daven in front of the window. Right. But here, Dafka in Shul, that's okay because it's a wall. Right in front of the whole area outside, there's a whole wall there, so you can't see anything going on. It's just the problem that it's reflected. That's the issue there.
It's good to have windows in Shul where you can see the sky.
Correct. That's true. But they can be higher up, right? Like those three windows on both sides. The people opened when they had COVID, they opened them up and then they closed them. Those windows are high enough for most people, not tallest in Shul, that they don't have the effect of a mirror. You can't see yourself in them, and on the other hand, you can see the sky. So those are perfect. I'm talking about the long pane that goes all the way from top to bottom. By the way, it's also problematic from a different point of view, what we spoke about before. Since it has this a mirror effect, when inside it's light and outside it's dark, so you could see all the women of the women's section right in front of you because it's like a mirror of those women. So even though if you're not looking up, it's like right in your face.
It's double whammy.
It's double whammy, right. You see yourself and you see all the women on top.
We should really, Rabbi, for Rosh Hashanah time, we should make those seats more expensive.
Yeah, right, huh? The best movie in town, huh? Yeah. Yeah. That's not what we want it to be during davening. Again, we're only talking about if the dress isn't proper. If women were to dress beyond elbow and chest closed and
the chest clothes, I think, is a cool down all the chest clothes.
That's what?
Never an issue. Chest closed, shul. I don't think it's ever an. I mean,
you would be surprised.
Then I guess
you would be surprised. Yeah. Not that I look much, but
I mean, that's in poor taste. Again, halacha is very important. I don't want to downplay halacha.
Depends on the woman. Some women, depends on the woman. Some feel it's. Yeah. What goes on today, you can't take anything for granted. Everything can happen.
The collarbone has to be covered.
Right. The collarbone, right, exactly. Which is quite high. It's quite high on the chest. It's not like mid-chest. Right. Right, the collarbone, right. That's how it has to be covered. So unfortunately, it's not always done that way. And the legs. So if it had been all properly covered, then there would be no issue. And you can daven. There's no issue to daven in front of a woman. I mean, again, now we're davening Shmoneh Esrei and seeing a portrait or a picture or a mirror image of a woman. We're talking about saying brachos, kriyat shema, kriyat Torah, all that. There's no problem to see a woman as you're davening, as long as she's properly dressed. That's necessary. Okay. Now, with regards to mirrors, Shlomo Zalman had an extra chumrah. We said now that you could do all your davening besides Shmoneh Esrei. Shlomo Zalman said that better yet, if you don't say any bracha, Psukim Zimra okay, Kriyat Shema okay, but a bracha, even shehakol, not in front of a mirror. Why? Because we say atah. Baruch atah Hashem. So we're speaking in second person to someone in front of us. Now, if we're seeing ourselves in the mirror, it's like saying to ourselves, atah. Baruch atah, you say, speak to yourself, because that's who you're seeing in front of you. It's not something halachic, really. It's more being careful, extra careful, not to say bracha in front of a mirror. If possible, better that way. And of course, if there's actual mirrors, then you can't daven in front of them. He says many times in the wedding halls, the daven mariv or mincha in the wedding hall, and to be careful because there are many times a lot of mirrors around such halls for the beauty of them. Be careful to position yourself not in front of a mirror, especially for Shmoneh Esrei, and if possible, better yet, not in front of a mirror for any bracha you say. Okay. Okay, last paragraph, short two-liner. This has to do with kol b'isha. We know that singing, a woman singing is also erva. Kol b'isha erva. A woman singing is also improper to listen to bichlal in general, and especially while davening or saying brachos or anything of that sort. No, that's not a problem. Zelo baya. She's not singing. You know, shara. When she says kaddish, yeah. In the beret, you know shara. לא, זה שירה, רק שהיא שרה. Yeah, saying Kaddish, I'll just explain in English. Saying Kaddish is okay from that point of view, because he's not singing. By the way, even laning is not necessarily considered singing. From that point of view, it wouldn't be a problem for a woman to lane because it's a very soft melody. It's not a song. It's not singing. She's saying it with a little bit of a tune, but it's not singing. So there are different reasons why not to have a woman lane the Torah, but not because of Kol B'Yishai Va. It's not Kvod Tzibur, that's what the Gemara says. It's not Megillah Kaf Gimel, it's not Kvod Tzibur for women to lay in front of men, probably because it's shameful for the men that they didn't have any men to prepare the lading and they had to have a woman prepare and doing the job. That's why the reason it's not Kvod Tzibur. Any case, so sometimes let's say you want to daven, and your wife, who may be a Nida at the time, she's singing a lullaby song to your baby, to your young child, to fall asleep. So it's problematic then to daven while she's trying to close the door.
She's a Nida should be less problematic. Funny you said she's a Nida.
Why? Dafka then there's a problem.
Then you have nothing to worry about.
Why?
She's a Nida.
Yeah, but Dafka then we're afraid that's when she's in a va. Yeah, everything that has to do with the nida, as your wife, if it's a strange woman, it doesn't matter. You can pass over things, you can touch her. It's not the issue of nida there. You can't touch a woman in any case because of erva, but not because of nida. When your wife is pure, then there's no erva whatsoever. You can see her undressed, you can see her, you can listen to her singing, all that. Only when she's a nida, then she becomes erva.
Your wife's interested, you don't want to in front of her.
No, Shmoneh Esrei not, because of Yehur Avera. Right. Okay. Otherwise, we would not be able to see it exposed, even our wife exposed. And it'd been an erva if she's pure.
No, she could be an Erevah. It doesn't mean you're not ready to do mincha. It means you're ready to go to bed.
Okay, but if she's an Erevah, you can't see it. Erevah, you're not allowed to look at any time, not just during davening. You're not supposed to see arayot in any time.
It leads to her hurry.
Oh, so, well, right. During davening, it doesn't matter if it leads or not. You can't daven that way. But during the day stam, it's shmirat at night. You're supposed to not look at a woman who's improperly dressed.
Obviously.
If it's because of lo yireh b'chayvat davar, or is it because of irurei avera? That's interesting. I would think that it's even because of lo yireh b'chayvat davar.
I don't understand that your wife and the nida and the not versus the non-nida.
That for sure makes a difference. Why? When she's a nida, then she's an erva for you as well, even though you're married. She's an erva woman now because she's a nida. So she's not. You're not allowed to be with her, and therefore any exposed parts of her body are like a strange woman.
So you're
for
saying
you right
the
now.
is the same example of that.
Right. The call of a wife who's a nida is now called b'yisharim afri.
By Sforah, by halacha l'maisa, by tachlis, it's the exact opposite.
Why? I don't get it. If she's allowed,
she's a nida singing this lullaby to my kid, putting him to sleep, singing with him. I know she's a nida. There's nothing's happening. The game's over. The game's not starting.
No, but that's the problem. Because she's a nida, then she's impure right now for me to have any contact with her.
Right.
So everything becomes erva. Part of erva is right. Part of it is you may be tempted, and also just because she's impure from the sense of being together, then everything in her becomes now like a strange woman. It's like a strange.
But we don't apply that, I believe, to one's daughters, I believe, right?
Right. No, I said only wife. Only wife. All the nida halachos have to do, except for relations, actual relations. Then nida is across the board. To have relations with a woman who's a nida, doesn't matter. It's karet, no matter what, no matter if it's your wife or a strange woman. Karet. But to touch, to look at, to hear songs, singing, all that, if it's a stranger woman, it has no effect if she's a nida or not. No difference. If it's your wife, then it has an effect. While she's a nida, it's all erva. While she's not, it's all allowed. So you're allowed to hear your wife singing to your child as you're praying Shemona Esrei if she's not nida. If she's a nida, you cannot. Okay.
What about?
Yeah, so that summarizes.
We're going on the radio, non-live.
Oh, so non-live. Truth of the matter is, it should be okay because you're not hearing her voice. It's not her voice. It's a electronic voice.
It's not good to be Mekayim Mitzvah, you're saying.
What?
You can't be Mekayim Mitzvah.
Right, we spoke about that. Wow, say a bracha through the radio, you can't be Mekayim any mitzvah that way.
Well, yes and no, because we talked about being mitzvah to a minyan during Corona.
Right.
By the radio, but not necessarily answering. Like you were mitzvah, but you weren't.
Shulazava wouldn't agree at all. Nothing. Not mitzvah and not. There were some that said that, but it's not the common psak. It's considered. We just said that it has one effect, that when you start Shmoneh Esrei, knowing that there's a minute that starts Shmoneh Esrei at the same time, it's not mitzdaref, but it's considered that it elevates your Shmoneh Esrei in some way. You're not considered 10 men. If let's say 10 people were davening in their homes, hearing it all on radio.
No, but there was a minyan. No, but remember?
So that's not called mitzdaref.
They had guys. They had to have 10 guys together.
That's something. Yeah. Okay. So I misunderstood.
I did it.
Mitzdaref usually means in halacha. Mitzdaref means to make the minyan. Right.
Sorry.
That's not. That definitely doesn't make a minyan.
I meant that they did
if they had 10, right.
You were 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Right. So you can't say amen. You can't say kedusha. You can't answer to anything. But it gives you something. Yeah, it gives you some connection. Right. It's a very weak one, but it's some connection. Better than nothing. Right. Better than nothing. Right. That's how we could phrase it. So anyhow, hearing a woman sing on radio is not the issue of erva. No longer. It's like similar, by the way, to seeing a portrait, to seeing a poster, which which we said a moment ago is not erva. Her body itself is not erva. But hirurei avera, we still have in these cases. You can start imagining what she looks like and enjoying her voice. So the post can differentiate between, do you know how she looks or do you not know how she looks? If you know the way she looks, you should not listen to her singing on radio. If you don't know what she looks like, then you can listen to her singing, because it's not erva, because it's only through the radio, and it's not going to give you any imagination because you don't know what she looks like. So if you don't know who the singer is, then you're able to.
Barbara Streisand. I don't know the name. You don't know the
name. I know the name. I don't know what she looks like, but I know the name.
Beautiful. Nice I heard in my life, Avina Malkein. She's probably 75, 80 years old.
The age doesn't make a difference. The age doesn't make a difference.
You ever heard from lady 75, 80 years old? I don't know. That's not my thing, but I don't want to,
Yeah, but
it's hard to say. The 80-year-old.
That's what we say lo plug. There's a question of lo plug, like yichud with a 90-year-old woman. Do you have a yichud? You can be alone in the same room with her. It's not going to get you anything enticed today. You're not going to get anything. You're not going to do anything bad with her. You're going to just help her out if she needs a cup of water or.
I would say there's no. I would say it's very similar to the shaila about chalitza with these 80, 90-year-old ladies. Is it a shoot or it's a mitzvah?
That's
supposed to discuss it.
Yeah, but that's a totally different ballgame. That's nothing to do with erva or here or anything.
But there's nothing happened with the 90-year-old lady, with the 95-year-old lady.
Right.
I'm visiting her in a hospital.
But because of
wherever I'm visiting her.
Halacha lemaise.
Yeah.
In Shulchan Aruch or Ibn Ezer is that there is a problem of yichud. No, Ibn Ezer, yeah. The problem of yichud no matter age, even an older woman. Because of lo plug, it doesn't mean it does something to you. Because of lo plug. You don't differentiate between ages. Then we'll start getting 75 or 73 or 72 or 70 and a half. You can't get into all these calculations. So it's lo plug, across the board, not allowed to hear, not allowed to be with any age. That's how halacha works. There's sisters, there's...
The rabbis don't always apply lo plug. That's a concept. They apply sometimes. It's not across the board.
It's yeah, but it's a very major concept. Very major concept. It's used a lot. It's used a lot because of not differentiating.
When lo plug goes against reason, ration, and necessity, then
that's exactly where lo plug goes. That's where exactly when you apply lo plug. Exactly what it's against. It goes against rationalism. It doesn't make sense. But that's exactly where you need to apply lo plug. If it would make sense, you wouldn't need lo plug. You would need the concept that we don't care of differences. We do it anyhow because it's something general. Okay, so we'll stop at this. Shavua tov. Take care, everyone. Call to. Bye-bye.